20, and I believe Councilman Separati will lead us in the invocation tonight.
Dear Lord, we ask for your strength and your courage throughout the year, and we ask that you spread your loving arms to the Jackson family for the loss of their family member and to whoever else has touched our hearts. And we ask that you watch over them. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Adams. Jones. Here. Separati.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Brownlee.
Here.
Turjansky.
Here.
Agee. Here. Albers.
Here. There is no addendum this evening, so we'll move right to the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the council meetings held on December 18th, 2013, January 2nd, 2014, and February 5th, 2014. Will the clerk? Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor again, please. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Madam Chair, point of order.
Adams.
Yes.
Jones. Yes. Separati.
No.
Madam Chair,
Jackson.
point of order.
Jackson.
This is extremely important, Madam Chair.
Brownlee.
Madam Chair, I have a point of order that needs to be addressed before we move forward. In parliamentary procedure, if someone brings forward a point of order, it has to be addressed
Councilman
immediately.
Brownlee, we are actually calling the roll for
Yes, Madam Chair, it's
our
because you
motion.
ignored my point of order 3 times.
Because there was a motion on the floor, Mr. Brownlee.
Madam Chair, according to Robert's Rules of Order, there is a hierarchy of motions. The main motion, which we are considering now,
Turjansky.
is the most lowest level.
He said yes.
Agee. Present. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4 yes.
Oh, yes, thank you. Communications this evening?
From Mayor
Madam
Jeffrey
Chair, point of order,
Lansky.
please.
The Mayor's Court Report for the month of January 2014. From Law Director John Montello. A letter to Councilman Bill Brownlee explaining the proper protocol in placing legislation into a committee according to the codified ordinances of Maple Heights.
Thank you. Department reports. Fire Department, Chief Jurcek.
Thank you, Madam President. With regret, I must inform you that on February 12th, 2014, the city laid off 4 firefighters effective immediately due to the financial condition of the city. My only hope is that our financial situation improves and we can bring the department back to full staff to be able to answer all calls for service. End of report.
Thank you. Law Department, Mr. Montello.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll just read my communication to clarify what the proper procedure is for, Councilman indicated that he had, that we were obligated to follow Robert's Rules of Orders and that they were in the city charter, as he stated at the February 5th council meeting. In chapter 220 of the codified ordinance of the city of Maple Heights, there's council rules, and he obviously was not aware of them. But in section 220E, there are special rules for placing legislation into committees. If these rules were not in place, then council would be required to follow the Robert's Rules of Orders. As stated in the codified ordinance, only the sponsor of the legislation and the council president, meaning both of them, they both have to agree to place the legislation into committee. You were out of order when you spoke without being recognized by the council president, as our rules require. Please refrain from this type of behavior that's extremely disruptive to everyone. In addition, please be advised that if the type of behavior continues, it could cause you to be removed from the meeting by the Sergeant of Arms. And as far as recording the meetings and your website, the city would insist that you post a disclaimer that the information contained thereon does not represent the views of the mayor, council, or the administration. I understand that the website has contained some misinformation. I don't subscribe to it, but I've heard that it may contain some misinformation. So we would request that you direct the public to our city website to obtain the accurate information. I'm sure you'll cooperate, and we can all move forward for the betterment of the city. Thank you. End of report.
Thank you. The engineering department, Mr. Wren isn't here, but we do have some information from him that will be read by our council clerk.
Please accept this memo as my February 19, 2014 council report. On the agenda tonight is resolution number 2014-17, which will authorize me to prepare plans, specifications, and advertise for bids for the resurfacing of Applegate Road, Mylan Drive, and Fairway Avenue. The funding for this project will be provided by the Carver County Department of Development under our $150,000 grant received by the City of Maple Heights as part of the 2014 CDBG Competitive Municipal Grant Program.
Thank you. Chief Merritz, Police Department.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report tonight.
Thank you. Human Services Department, Mrs. Bohat.
Thank you, Madam President. The Human Services Department would like to extend our deepest sympathy to Councilman Jackson on the loss of his brother. We extend our sympathy, and if there's anything we can do to help, please let us know. I have no report, Madam President.
Thank you. Finance Department, Ms. Kroll.
Good evening. Finance Department has no report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have an opportunity for citizens' comments. If you'd like to step up to the podium, state your name and your address, we'd be happy to hear from you.
Bob Halen, 16226 Maplewood Court. This is addressed to one man on the council in particular. I resent you trying to take my spot as a person that created chaos here. Thank you.
Greetings. Stafford Jeanette, 15051 Jennings Drive.
5015.
Oh, excuse me, 15051 Jennings Drive. Greetings, Mayor, Police Chief, Fire Chief, Councilman Adams. I just came up here to talk just briefly about the financial situation of the city, and I know we're trying to put a well, there's going to be a levy that we're going to vote on in May. And just to say, as a citizen in the city of Maple, I'm very concerned about our financial state. I do support anything that can help the city and continue to grow and keep the city safe. But also, sometimes as citizens, we're out there in the trenches, and we can hear what people say, what they think. Alex and I were talking to a gentleman yesterday who lives in Maple, and he had his opinion. And there's a lot of people out there with those type of opinions, and what I'm trying to say is that they don't feel that, well, this levy don't help me, and the city doesn't do enough for me, you know, that type of thinking. And I was telling Alex that if there's a way that we can communicate, because a lot of people in Maple, and y'all know, in general, are out of touch. You know, they don't keep up with government, the local government, what's going on, what's important. They feel disconnected, and so they vote based on that. You know, and I think it's really important if I can share with council. You know, if you have the resources, if you have the monies, to get the information out so people know how serious that this situation is. You know, why it's important that we vote for this levy. And, you know, there are people who believe, hey, they laid off 4 firefighters. Oh, whoopie-doo. Well, that's important, okay? We need the safety of the firefighters, because when your house is on fire, you know, you want to make sure that you have all the resources and whatnot to put that fire out. Or, you know, Lord forbid, to go in and bring out that loved one who may be trapped in that fire. A lot of times people look at, you know, I'm going to say it, they look at race, they look at class, they look at all these other things, and they, you know, they forget about the real important thing, and that's one another. We're Americans, and we're fighting for one another. So whatever it takes, you know, I told Alex, I'll go out and I'll talk to the neighbors and say, hey, I'll go to the council meeting, I'll go to the other different events that the city has. I talk to the council people. They're good people. You know, they're just trying to do right. I think we all have gifts and talents, and you know I may be the foot, somebody else may be the head, but we work together. And that's my little tidbit. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
We move on to the legislation.
Ordinance number 2014-12, an ordinance requiring the clerk of council to deliver to the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections a proposed amendment to Article 3, Section 1, and Article 7, Section 5 of the Charter of the City of Maple Heights, eliminating the elected position of President of Council, to be submitted to the electors at the May 6, 2014 primary election, and declaring an emergency.
May I have a motion to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on its third and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Brownlee.
I'm looking at this legislation, and in reference to the idea that's given here, I think that it's bad timing for this one and actually the next one. It's bad timing for our city. We're going to be coming out of financial watch or caution or emergency for a couple of years, and we're already strapped as can be, according to the mayor, to be able to get business done at City Hall. And so to make changes like this one and the following piece of legislation, to change council, the way it conducts business, who it represents, will take a lot of effort to figure that out and to communicate it to the residents. I think this is a poor time to do so. And also, to reduce representation is always something to do very cautiously, because as representatives, we're your closest connection to the Maple Heights city government. So any reduction to the number of representatives that you have, or how much access you have to that representative, is something to take very seriously. And therefore, I don't believe that this is in the best interests of our city.
Is there any other discussion?
Madam President,
Go ahead, Dan.
I would just like to say, as the introducer of both of these pieces of legislation, when you look around every city department and you see that every city department has become smaller except for one, and there is an answer to that, and that is to give the people who live here, who a lot of them know what's going on, and they see what's going on, and they certainly hear what's going on, to give them the choice, the opportunity, that 21 out of 100 which voted last year. That's right, 21 out of 100 people who were registered to vote voted last year. So representation where you have apathy, you have a huge disconnect, and this kind of rhetoric is really, really dangerous. People who vote, the few that do, that are making the decisions on who holds offices all across this great land of ours, maybe aren't making the best choice that they have available. Now, I know no one wants to lose their job. I know no one wants to lose their seat, because, you know, we have egos here, we have recordings, we have cameras, we're playing it up for the microphone and playing it up for the crowd. These are options to not spend money we don't have. We are not going to have a surplus in the year 2016. We may break even if we're lucky. We're going to limp along like we've been doing. And it all works together, like I said a few minutes ago. You have some small cuts, you have some bigger cuts, you do away with some programs or some services. This all has to work together. It's a process, it's a process, it's a process. It's part of a plan, an overall plan. It's not throwing darts at a board. I don't throw darts at a board, Councilman. I don't have a magic ball that I look into or a Ouija board. You know, we're all doing the best we can with the gifts that we have that God gave each and every one of us. These are ideas, these are options. If you want to rob the people, the 21% maybe that are going to vote on this, the opportunity, why? What sense does that make? Let the people look at it. People are intelligent. They understand when they vote. They look at things. They understand what the language is. And I'm fine with letting the cards fall where they may. But to say things like I heard tonight about, you know, council took a pay cut of what, $700? And I said, is that a joke? Is that a laughable joke? You know, there's people that lost their jobs that saw their whole year's income go up in smoke. Just like we lost all of that property tax value money. When all of our properties, we lost $40,000, $50,000 in one day. So what's $700? Oh, that defers away from the real issue. The real issue is we have too much government here. We have too many representatives here. Look around at other cities. Cities like Cleveland have reduced their city council twice in the last 10 years. Macedonia, a city that's bigger than ours and has a lot more going on, reduced the size of their council too. Washington, D.C., how many congressional seats did Ohio lose this last election? You know, big government doesn't work. You know, we have a disappearing middle class. Like I said, reality was knocking on the door. Well, reality's in the room now. There's people here at this meeting tonight who have never been here before and are here because someone close to them lost their job and got laid off. But nobody here has the guts to want to take the hit too. Let the people decide the fate of the city's government. I'm fine with that. The last time I checked, it was a government of the people, by the people. I'm done.
Any
Madam
further
Chair.
discussion? Go ahead, Alex.
Madam President.
Speak into the mic, please.
I read this legislation. I asked the mayor to withdraw at this time. I asked that we take it to the residents to make that decision here. I get calls. I'm pretty sure people that call me are not voters. Some of them are voters. But when they have a problem, it's usually we get the call. Is a reduction in the consul justified? It all depends, Mayor, what a person thinks about representation. And who does that representation? When you get a call, I get right on it and call department heads or whatever, water company, sewer, whatever, and try to get it done, eliminating government. Reduction of pay, consul. Mayor, I haven't seen you take a pay cut. I took 5% voluntarily. I was hoping the rest of the council would have took a pay cut. I would have took it. I would have took some more. I was trying to just get it on the page and get started, like you said, a little bit here, a little bit there. And I'm pretty sure if we brought this up, but we never had no discussions on it. And if we did, I think council would have came to a decision. So right now, we need the city income tax. All our thoughts and work should go in telling the residents how bad we need it, and we do. Where else there'll be more cut. And then council's gonna have to look at it. Their side, our side. I have no problem with that. I'll be glad to. And I'm pretty sure a couple others would too. But now, let's focus on getting this income tax, put this off, so that when I'm standing up at the poll, I'll be able to just concentrate on why we need the money, how it's gonna affect you, the residents, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a bigger vote. They'll be out. You can come. So I asked to delay it and put it on another time and let the residents decide. Thank you.
Any- Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everybody. What this legislation is eliminating the position of council president and 2 council people. That means that there'll be 3 positions at this table that will be gone. So, since we have intelligent voters out there, and we have caring council that's out there, we put this choice in your hands to vote for the best person that's gonna represent and take care of the area that might be restructured or redistricted at the time. But by us losing 3 positions, and unfortunately it doesn't happen until 2016, right now, that might help us retain one of our housing inspectors. Do you know that we don't have any? We have 1 person, and I'll get to that in my report. Could you imagine what's gonna happen to the city once the grass grows? I think, you know, and I don't really maybe agree with the ego situation that might be sitting at this table, but I do believe that each one of us care about our district, and I don't care how big or how small it is, but if you would, for example, elect me with a larger area, I would work just as hard as I do right now to make sure that the services and whatever I could do and produce is right. So I think by letting the voters decide if you want to reduce council and eliminate the council president, that's your choice. And then your next choice is making sure that you're actually going to vote in competent people to actually represent you and to have your voice heard and to have them take care of your problems. But I do agree that we are too large. I personally, from my district, don't get as many calls as Alex, but he welcomes calls. And I would also like to challenge council to find out of all the calls you get, how many are the repeat calls, or are they all different? I have my handful of people that I need to coddle, babysit, help each time, and I have people that have never called me ever. And now because of the snow, or if the grass grows, you know, you could call me just as well as you could call the building department. I'm sure the mayor gets his share of calls. But we do what we could do with what we have. And I think it should be up to the people. But I think this is the perfect time for us to at least extend to those people that have been laid off, that we are looking to try to help in any way that we can by just reducing our size of council. That's it.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a quick statement for the record that I will be the first to tell anyone in this room that I am not afraid of losing my seat. And if that is the choice of the voters, or something else comes along that it's that way, then so be it. I know that I will walk out that door knowing that I tried my best for everyone in District 3 in the city. So I would just like to have that on record, that I'm not afraid of losing my seat. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Jackson.
I think there's another way to handle, or at least to think about this situation. I think by reducing council, I think the workload is going to increase on the ones that's left. But just doing some quick calculations, there's another way to save that money that you would save by eliminating those positions, by taking a decrease in pay. Just quick calculations, if our pay went down to 6,600, that would be the same thing as eliminating 2 council people and a council president. Reducing salaries to help save somebody else's job is definitely something that I think is a good thing, but not only here, but all the way through the administration. Thank you.
At caucus, I did have a comment to make, and that was that I feel that this would not go into effect until 2016, so we do have time to do it. And I certainly do not have any objection to reworking the council or the council president. I think those ideas are actually very valid and could probably be done. But my focus at this point in time is on the tax levy. And as I expressed my concern to the mayor this afternoon as well, that sometimes when people see too many things on the ballot, too many issues, too many decisions, they just begin to vote no. So this might be another decision that we could hold on, but I will let it up to the council to vote for the suspension first of all, and we'll move on from there. Call the roll, please.
To suspend, Sefirati,
No.
Jackson,
Yes?
Cruz, I'm sorry, I got the wrong. No, I have the cut and paste. Brownlee,
No.
Turjansky,
Yes.
Agee,
No.
Adams,
No.
Jones.
Yes.
4 votes said no, so we don't even have to suspend.
Okay.
So it.
Do you want to put it on first reading, Mayor?
Yeah, if it has to go down to the Board of Elections, we gotta vote on it tonight. Sorry.
Just continue on with
Okay,
your
go ahead.
business.
2014-13, go ahead, Kathy.
Ordinance number 2014-13, an ordinance requiring the clerk of council to deliver to the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections proposed amendments to Article 7, Section 1, and Article 17 of the Charter of the City of Maple Heights, decreasing the members of council and the number of districts to 5 to be submitted to the electors at the May 6, 2014 primary election, and declaring an emergency.
May I have a motion to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on its third and final reading?
So moved.
Second?
I believe we've had enough discussion, but if you'd like to add at this point in time, you may. Call the roll to suspend, please.
Sefirati,
No.
Jackson,
Yes?
Brownlee,
No.
Turjansky,
Yes.
Agee,
No.
Adams,
No.
Jones.
Yes.
Same. Resolution number 2014-14, a resolution designating March 2014 as Multiple Sclerosis Education and Awareness Month in the city of Maple Heights and declaring an emergency.
May I have a motion to suspend the rules and place this resolution on its third and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call the roll to suspend, please.
Sefirati,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes?
Brownlee,
No.
Turjansky,
Yes.
Agee,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
May I have a motion for adoption, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes?
I know I risk sounding heartless when I say this. My opinion on this has nothing to do with multiple sclerosis or addressing the awareness of diseases that many people we even know struggle with. But I am voting no on the principle that there is so much going on in the city that needs addressed, that motions like these, sometimes, at times like these, seem out of place, though we understand they come from a caring heart. And so, on that note, I stand against this legislation because I see the dire needs that our city are in. And so to be working on legislation like this rather frequently, I think is unnecessary and takes away from the main focus that we have as a city of balancing our budget and providing the services that our city requires. So I ask that no one would think less of me for standing on that principle. And my heart does go out to those who struggle with diseases like multiple sclerosis.
Madam President,
Go ahead, Councilman Adams.
I'd just like to thank Richard for bringing this up. Those people that have different diseases, and we make it aware how it affects them, and bring it in light to show that we might have a little bit out of the ordinary, but we still carry on life, and just make people aware. Thank you, Richard, for bringing this up.
Okay, I think we're ready to call the roll, please.
For adoption, Sephardi?
Yes.
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Brownlee?
No.
Sujaniski?
Yes.
Agee?
Yes.
Adams?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
The resolution passed by the vote 6 yes, 1 no. Ordinance number 2014-15, an ordinance amending section 86204 of the codified ordinances regarding the regulation and licensing of solicitors and peddlers who, for the purpose of selling goods or seeking revenues, canvass residential neighborhoods in the city of Maple Heights and declaring an emergency.
May I have a motion to suspend the rules and place this legislation ordinance on its first and final reading?
So moved.
Third and final reading, I'm sorry.
So moved.
Correct. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Brownlee?
This legislation is being passed on emergency, and we're even suspending the rules on top of that. And I am not aware of an immediate emergency that is threatening our city or a financial need that is disparaging us that would require such a motion, such a movement. It appears, in my experience, having come to council meetings, as most of you have for a long time, that it seems to be our practice to suspend the rules and place on emergency just to expedite the process, when, according to our codified ordinances, that is not why we suspend the rules or place on emergency. So I know that perhaps at this point in time, it's not that important, but wait for something that is important to you, and it gets rushed through, and you haven't had a chance to read it or comment on it. That's a place I don't want to go. So out of respect for the residents in my city, to take a broader stand than simply on this piece of legislation, I would suggest that we do not suspend the rules, because there really is nothing of a nature that would constitute an emergency that we must suspend rules to pass it.
Chief, do you have a comment on that, please?
This is something that, obviously the city's finances need to be addressed, and point by point, every little bit, and this has been checked on as far as solicitor prints in local or surrounding neighborhoods, and it needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Chief. And also, just for the, excuse me, Mr. Nolan, please, just for the members of the audience here who might not be aware that it says emergency. The only difference is that when we pass an emergency piece of legislation, it means it just moves it forward. It doesn't have to wait. It goes into effect almost immediately after the mayor has signed it. The other way, first, second, and third reading means that it will wait for, let's see how many weeks, and then it goes in 6 weeks, and then it has to wait even longer than that until the mayor signs it. So we do have spring coming up. We have people who are roofers knocking on doors. We have other people who are knocking on doors with and they have been doing that with the cable people. They knock on my door occasionally. So why would we want to wait for 6 weeks to put something like this into effect? I don't see, personally, I don't see why we would want to wait. It's just an uptick in the fine or the permit that we have asked them to pay. Let's move on it, please. Okay.
So for the suspension, Safrati,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Brownlee,
No.
Turjansky,
Yes.
Agee,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes,
Jones.
Yes.
May I have a motion for adoption, please?
so moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Call the roll for, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just one point clarification. This does not affect the school children out selling cookies, candy bars, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, like that. So just for clarification.
Call the roll, please.
Safrati,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Brownlee,
No.
Turjansky,
Yes.
Agee,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes,
Jones.
Yes.
The ordinance passed by the vote 6-1. Ordinance number 2014-16, an ordinance amending chapter 1494 of the codified ordinances, enacting new section 1494-021, prohibiting corporations from purchasing, owning, selling, or transferring real property without first registering with the Ohio Secretary of State and declaring an emergency.
This ordinance is on its first reading.
Madam President, I would like to be put on as co-sponsor.
Thank you.
Resolution number 2014-17, a resolution authorizing the engineer to begin the preparation of plans and specifications and to advertise for bids for the resurfacing of several streets in the city of Maple Heights and declaring an emergency.
May I have a motion to suspend the rules and place this resolution on its third and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Madam President.
Councilman Brownlee?
This is a good example of something that does need to be passed on emergency with the suspension of the rules. This is a something that has a time limit on it, and we need to get it there in time so that we can make use of the funds that the mayor has secured. And so I see no problem with moving forward in this so we can be prepared for the season to pave a couple of our streets in our city. So I think it's a good idea to suspend the rules on this piece of legislation and push it through as fast as may be to expedite the process for timing reasons.
Go ahead and call the roll, please, for suspension.
Safrati,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Brownlee,
Yes.
Turjansky,
Yes.
Agee,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes,
Jones.
Yes.
May I have a motion for adoption?
so moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Call the roll for adoption, please.
Safrati,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Brownlee,
Yes.
Turjansky,
Yes.
Agee,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes,
Jones.
Yes.
Resolution passed by the vote 7-0.
Would you turn to your expenditures over $1,000? That would be number 2014-03 through 29. Is there any discussion? Questions? May I have a motion for adoption, please?
So moved.
Mr. Jackson,
Second.
call the roll, please.
Safrati,
President?
Jackson,
Yes.
Brownlee,
Yes.
Turjansky.
Yes.
Agee,
No.
no. Adams?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, motion passed.
Thank you. Mayor's report?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. As stated earlier in the caucus meeting, that if 2014-12 and 13 did not pass suspension of the rules, that I would withdraw them, and I hereby withdraw them. They're not going to meet the deadline anyway. But if I was going to see them go on the ballot, and I was going to put out political literature as to why council would be reduced, I probably would reference some recent newspaper articles that, what did you call it, Mr. Hillen, chaos? Because that would be the best argument of all on why to reduce the size of city council. As a former council president and a councilman of this body, I have never seen such chaos created by one or two, sometimes three individuals. 20-some years, and I gotta tell you, I never recall anyone voting twice on an issue and getting away with it. And point of order, really? You make a motion to adopt, is there a second, or on suspension, is there a discussion? Not point of order, point of order, point of order. You have discussion. Read your rule book, read your council rules, read your codified ordinances. It's very easy, it's very simple. What's that commercial? Even a caveman can understand it? So easy? It helps if you know what you're talking about. You think that what goes on in these meetings when it's conveyed in the newspaper, I could tell you I get around. This is a laughing stock in other communities, in Bedford, Bedford Heights, Garfield Heights, Cleveland, Cuyahoga Heights, wherever that newspaper goes, you're being laughed at because you don't know what you're talking about. There's a real lack of respect for the chair, for the president, the presiding officer who runs this meeting. Raise your objections during discussion. There is no point of order, and I can't wait for you to call for the question. Didn't you come to that part of the book yet? You're looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about, so I would say that's a no. This city has some serious financial problems. It's no secret. If it hasn't been out there, it should be out there by now. I've been called by many media outlets. I know the fire chief has spoken to one today, so has the council president. From Cleveland.com, Fox 8 had the story, other TV stations will have the story. The way those things usually originate is someone calls their anonymous tip line and says that something happened, employees were laid off, and right away that's news. That's news. What isn't news is the amount of money that the city is owed in delinquent property taxes. $1.8 million. That's not news to anybody. And it should be news. And it's not news to anybody that Rita owes us over $2 million. That's not news either, because they just go about their business. And all these elected officials who everyone in this room from time to time, and I can tell you I'm not one of them, has voted for, because at the last council meeting I gave a report, I talked about how Democrats fall in love, and we're in Cuyahoga County, and we got a lot of love to spread around with our candidates. So we vote for them blindly because we're Democrats and we fall in love with them. And the Republicans, they fall in line behind their guy or their gal. And what do they do for us? Nothing. Nothing. Our member of the county council, he wants us to support the sin tax. Why? I had a former elected official, a mayor from another town who's working on the Syntax Committee, call me today and ask me for my support for the Syntax. I said, and I quoted my good friend Freddie Jackson, that's a big hell to the no. No. I don't smoke and I really don't drink much, if at all, so I'm not paying that tax anyway. But here's what I don't understand. Why aren't you supporting what's happening to these first inner-ring suburbs of Cleveland, which you're a former mayor of? You're losing money, or your community lost money, you still live there just like we do. Why aren't you getting behind an issue to help your city? You know, we all know there's used to be 3 stooges at the Browns, now they've been reduced by 2, so there's only 1 stooge. And that stooge got $102 million from First Energy. So what do we need a Syntax for to help the Browns? How about the Cavaliers? You know, the owner of the Cavaliers has made billions of dollars in the housing market selling mortgages, and now he's making millions with 2 casinos. Really? A member of the county council asked me, not our representative, to support it. I told her no. She said, well, if it doesn't pass, then the county has to pay for it. I said, good. Let the county pay for it. You screwed us enough over the last few years. It's time for some payback. Take it out of your budget. And again, there's more county council members and an executive who has the 2nd highest salary in the entire state of Ohio next to the governor, who's running for governor. This county government is costing us more than the last county government, which was corrupt and they all went to jail. And everybody's okay with that? Did you vote for any of those people?
No.
I know I didn't. It's very frustrating. You know, we've had the bait and switch, and I've said this and I'm going to say it again. We were promised by the county government. We were promised money, economic development money, if we passed anti-poaching legislation. Fine, we'll pass it. We don't poach anyway. You know what? No one got anything. There was no money there. There never was. They shut down our internet cafes. Why? Why? Because they made a little money and people had a good time going there? We never had problems with internet cafes. That was almost 200 grand we lost. Why? What harm? Show me the crime. No police calls, no alcohol, no drugs. The executive doesn't want to give us any casino revenue. Why? Because he wants it all to go to the city of Cleveland so we could block off Public Square just like Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House. So you can't drive by Public Square anymore. We're going to put up walls of greenery. That's where the casino money's going, folks. So what alternatives do we have? You know, we can lay off, we can close buildings, we could close this building. We could close a fire station down. We can shut down City Hall for 2 days a week. I don't know who's going to work there. We have deficits in millions of dollars. We have all this money the county and Rita owes us. They're not doing anything to get it to us. Our state senator, Nina Turner, is doing nothing. Our state rep, John Barnes, is doing nothing. Pernell Jones, our county council person, is doing nothing. Our congresswoman, Marcia Fudge, is doing nothing. Nothing. The governor, nothing. The executive of the county, nothing. The question is how do you fix it? How do you survive? Because it has to be fixed from the inside. Their mentality is, you fix it, it's your problem. When they took all of that money away from us. The governor took $1 million away from us. The executive and his team took $1.5 million away from us. What do you want us to do? Just go away and just die? And this isn't only our problem. This is a problem in other cities. cities close to us are feeling the same squeeze, the same pinch. And life as we know it is about to change. There's a bigger storm coming out there, and if we don't do something, and that's why this levy is important, that's why all of these things are important, even if they take effect in a couple of years from now. Because as we know it is going to be different. We have a choice to have a decision in that process of making it different. Or it'll be changed for us without our say-so at all. And that's when the very people who put us on this suicide course come in and they take over. And then what do we do? Just live with it, accept it. Some of the things that you've heard here tonight, and again, you know, words that come out, to me, it's rhetoric. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. We have, believe me when I tell you this, and if anyone wants facts and figures, I can read off the names and show you their faces. The number of people who have lost their jobs. You know, when you hear about downsizing the government, that's nothing. These are all part-time jobs. Some are retired. There may be one or two that are using this as full-time income. But we're talking about people's livelihoods, their families, their homes. You know, they lost their full-time job. What's a part-time gig? What is that? You can't live on that. Maybe you can. I don't know. I've always worked and had a full-time job. But I sure wouldn't be banking on getting reelected every 2 years as that being my only source of income. And sitting here and trying to float it like, oh, we got all this work to do and all this, you know, it's not representation. I mean, look at the number of people who used to live in this city. Some people in this room have lived here longer than I have. We were once a city of 30,000 people. We're down to like 23,000. Where'd they all go? They left. And they're not coming back. And the businesses that were here, they left too. And they're not coming back either. The big factories, the big warehouses, they're not coming back. We are getting a business from another community that's leaving that's going to bring us 18 full-time jobs. That's what we get. We don't get the world headquarters for Eaton Corporation like Beechwood does. We get a business that's going to bring us 18 jobs, and we take it with open arms because we need it. I know change isn't easy. Someone a lot smarter than me once said, change is the law of life. And if you don't embrace it, it's just going to pass you right on by. So, on a more positive note, I was contacted by News Channel 5. They are doing a Northeast Ohio project of showcasing block watches. And Maple Heights has a reputation for being very, very strong in block watches in neighborhoods. So at this time, I'm going to publicly invite and ask, and please don't say no, but Councilman Adams and Councilman Trojansky and Councilwoman Agee to be part of this project. You will be showcased as your neighborhoods and your block watches will also be showcased as an example for other communities to be inspired by, because I know the three of you have put a lot of time in the past years, some of you even when you weren't elected, to being involved in block watches. And I think it's time that you were complimented and recognized for that. So you're welcome, and I will be giving you the details as long as you say yes. Thank you. And with that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Sepulveda, just brief.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no report.
I'm sorry, is Councilman Jackson coming back?
I think he said he had to leave. Maybe he's right upstairs.
All right, we'll move on then to Councilman Brownlee, District 5.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's no arguing that we have seen our share of confusion at the beginning of this new year in City Council. There's absolutely no denying that. One part of it that really highlights it is actually this letter, believe it or not. At the conclusion of our last meeting, I requested personally that the law director would give me his professional, his official opinion on perhaps whether we were in order in the way we conducted our business at the last meeting. And he said I had mentioned if he could get to me by Friday, in a couple days. And he said no. I said, okay, how about Monday? That should be fine. That should be fine. Monday came and went. I never got an opinion. Never even got email mentioning that he was working on it. But what I did receive was the following Friday, this letter, which you'll be able to read on an article I write in Maple Heights News, because it's a public document. You have access to that. And I would just like to say that this is just personal note. I got the impression I was being intimidated, maybe, with this letter. But that's not why I choose to mention it this evening. I choose to mention it because in the official response to how we conducted our business at the last meeting, there were multiple errors in this document. Very easy to see. First of all, is that while they were right, here's one part where they were right. It's not in the city charter, as I mentioned, that we have to follow Robert's Rules of Order for our meetings. That's true. However, they neglected to say that it's in our codified ordinances. So I'm sorry that I mentioned that incorrectly. But whenever they went to the codified ordinances to tell me that I was wrong about something, they quoted the wrong section of the codified ordinances. Well, then we go down to this paragraph where they give their official opinion, and because I'm not sure it was only Mr. Montello's opinion. It says, as stated, the codified ordinance, as stated in the codified ordinance, only the sponsor of the legislation and the council president may place a legislation committee. They put only. But you notice in the codified ordinances, there's no only in the codified ordinances. What it says here is, in talking about referring legislation to committee, which is a normal thing to do in the course of business, this is what the codified ordinances say. Any ordinance, resolution, or pending matter of general interest may be referred to the appropriate council committee by the sponsor of the legislation and the presiding officer. See what that's saying here? It's not saying that they are the only ones able to refer to committee. What this section of the codified ordinances is saying, which is important, is that these two individuals, the introducer and the council president, have an additional privilege of referring to committee without even making a motion to refer to committee. So that's incorrect. Well, then we come to the second to last paragraph. And this is the part that really scares me. They say that my website supposedly, if you've been to Maple Heights News, they say supposedly portrays itself as the official city news. First of all, that's nowhere on my website. You go right to our About Us page, and I say we're a collection of residents who are concerned about our community. And the city would insist that you post a disclaimer that the information contained therein does not represent the views of the mayor, council, or administration. Okay, I can understand that. But what I took away from this is that they don't want information on my website. They don't want any information, really, on my website. On a community news website made up of residents of the city of Maple Heights, they don't want conversations happening about things like the income tax levy, because they want to tell you what to think. They don't want you discussing it among yourselves. That is very dangerous. And I felt as though I was being intimidated. This was an intimidation tactic by the administration. And it wasn't even, half the things they said, and they weren't even true. It pains me. It pains me. This is the place where we live. This isn't Washington, D.C., removed from everything else where we play political shenanigans. Try to one-up one another. Let's just shoot straight. But on that same note, there has been a lot of confusion in our city. And I would like to apologize and express my regret over the confusion. The last meeting on February 5th was unique. I have never seen a discussion like that at any council meeting I have attended. When we were considering Resolution 2014-04, I raised a point of order regarding that motion at hand. Regrettably, confusion ensued as we did not know how to proceed according to good order. Even more regrettable is the fact that this is at least the third time this year that we have found ourselves at a loss as to how to handle our business in a public meeting. In January, we twice stumbled in trying to elect a council president pro tem. Last meeting, we stumbled again when I attempted to make a motion to refer to committee, a basic and foundational part of the rules of order. This, my friends, is unacceptable and dangerous. If we take a great risk, if we as council remain uneducated to the rules governing good order in our meetings. Robert's Rules of Order, in this digest edition, because I think the real edition might be a little too heady for me, it states the purpose of parliamentary procedure, which is what we are governed by in conducting our business. The point is not to bore us to death. The point is not to overwhelm us with a load of rules that we can't keep track of, nor is it to provide loopholes for people to take advantage of. Do you know what the rules of order are for? The rules of order are to help us efficiently conduct business and, perhaps more importantly, is to protect the rights of the minority. To protect the rights of the minority so that they can still have their opinion heard, they can still be represented, because as you heard tonight, I was not permitted to speak. So guess who wasn't permitted to speak? All the residents of District 5 were not permitted to speak. It's a very dangerous path to take. Therefore, I humbly suggest that in a desire to do our job with excellence, we seek as council to educate ourselves concerning the rules that govern how we conduct business in regular meetings. You deserve, all the residents of Maple Heights deserve, that we conduct the business of the city in an orderly and just fashion. Please accept my apology on behalf of all of council for the confusion that maybe made you feel awkward or wonder if business could be done here in City Council. On a more positive note, though, we've been talking about all kinds of things, from big things like income tax, big things like a $2 million deficit, down to little things like how much to charge for renting pavilions, little things, how much to charge for someone getting a permit so they can go door to door and solicit. a whole various range and array of issues. But as we discuss all these issues, as we discuss the issue of what we're going to do as a city, we need to be aware of two mistakes that we might make, the same two mistakes that a driver might make. If you have a son or a grandson, someone who's learning to drive, you know there's two mistakes that are easily made and must be overcome whenever you're learning to drive, especially. The first is that you focus too much on where you're going. You know what I mean? You're looking ahead. You're looking at the road signs, maybe looking at the map in the seat next to you. You're thinking about where you're going, and then boom! You hit a curb, you hit a pothole, you weren't paying attention, and hopefully this never happens, you bump the car in front of you when you come up to a red light. Why? Because we're looking too far into the future or where we're going. There's another mistake you can make. You can be too focused on where you are. Think of this. This is the opposite of what we were just talking about. And you know, you've seen the young person driving. They're nervous. What are they doing? They're watching what's right next to them. They're watching the lines on the ground. They're saying, oh my God, am I in the middle? Am I in the middle? Am I in the middle? Am I, oh, it's a pothole. Watch out for that. And the next thing you know, they've missed their exit. They're paying attention too much to the things that were right next to them, and they missed what was coming in the future. They missed that turn. They missed that exit. There's two mistakes that can be made. Well, the same is true with a body like City Council. We can be too focused on the future and miss the immediate needs, or we can be too focused on the immediate needs and miss the future. So how do we avoid these mistakes is really the question. How do we avoid these mistakes? Well, as a driver, you just have to get better at doing both, and you do with time. But what about City Council? What do you think with City Council? With city government? How do you think we address this and make sure we do both things? Well, my first suggestion would be that we have plenty of meetings, and that we have longer meetings. We have to invest the time so that we can address these issues. Secondly, you know, a good co-pilot can be the best thing in the world on a long trip. You know what I mean? You have someone sitting next to you navigating for you. I think the City Council needs to have public forums so we can hear from you about what ideas you think are wise, what direction we might take. But also, outside help like the county or the state auditor's office could be a good co-pilot for the city to have. Outside help is nothing to fear, and I don't fear it. By God's grace, we will find the things that we need. The teamwork, the help, and the esprit de corps that we can move forward. Because it's not just the little things here and now, and it's not just the big picture in the future. We need both. And it will be a challenging task. But it's one we must be up to. Because without it, the city will continue to decline. It's inevitable. So with God's help, I pray that we will be able to. With that, I close my report. May God bless you, and may God bless Mayblights.
Councilman Trojanski, District 6.
Good evening. I'll be very brief. Just want to say thank you to my colleagues on council that supported the resolution designating the month of March as Multiple Sclerosis Education and Awareness Month. You know, as council members, our two main purposes here are to legislate, to create the laws to govern the city, as well as to appropriate, to provide the money so that the government can operate. But we are the representative branch of government, and so we represent our people. And so as a council member, I take it upon myself to bring causes forth for public awareness, and so resolutions like this are as an example to do just that, to educate and raise awareness about issues and causes that affect people. And that's why we're here as council members, to represent and to lead the city forward. So I thank you to my council members this evening for supporting that resolution. There are two projects I'm working on. Partnershiping with ESOP, which is a statewide nonprofit organization. They've approached me. They would like to come into Maple Heights and provide the residents new homebuyer education classes, as well as pre-purchasing counseling for residents who are interested in becoming home buyers in the city. And I'm also working with a local bank to provide a financial literacy workshop, because we all take it for granted that people know how to balance their checkbook, how to repair the credit or how to manage the money, but not everyone has those financial skills. So I'm working with a local bank here, and I'll have those details at the next council meeting to have classes for residents who want to take charge of their finances. And so with that, I close my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Councilwoman Agee, District 7.
I would like to thank the 4 firemen that got laid off for the service that they provided in the report.
Thank you. Councilman Adams, District 1.
Thank you.
Alex, in the room, please.
There's a lot of activity on Carroll Drive this past 2 weeks. An ongoing complaint with the resident on the cul-de-sac complaining about a pool in a neighbor's backyard. Anticipating trouble in the warming weather. It's been referred to the building department numerous times, and the resident is in compliance, and it's not even spring yet. Now the resident complaining about barking dogs during the day while she sleeps for her night job. Referred to Matt, the animal warden. Residents on Carroll and Schreiber did not receive mail for the past 2 days due to snow around the mailboxes. I called Service and Dennis Liu to help resolve the issue. The Bedford Post Office is claiming some residents with mailboxes on the street will not get their mail because the streets are not blocked. It's a lie. Good old days are gone, when the delivery in rain, sleet, and snow, and we just gave them a raise. And I thank the service department for the good work in clearing the snow. I asked a question. They walk every other street. They walk Summit, but they can't walk once, twice. Carroll Drive and Schreiber? Beyond me. Please note there is 1 day delay in the garbage pickup in Maple Heights this week. Any questions is delayed, please go to WAM.com for more information. The delay was due to bad weather. I made calls Monday, didn't get an answer. They called me this morning, 2 supervisors, and apologized. And I'd like to thank Darrell from the building department inspector with the garbage situation that I keep bringing up in Borneo on Walvern and Lee. He must have did something right, because when I went past there, the department manager was up on top of the dumpster trying to squeeze in some more garbage. And I'd like to thank that my opponent, Jeanette, that was here tonight and spoke on behalf of the city income tax. And that's what we need, more of that. And he did help me out in an argument with a resident that thought that we pay too much taxes. Well, they should look and see the surrounding area, what taxes are being paid in city by city, school districts. I know some people are misinformed. The rumor just goes and goes without checking the facts. But they don't lie. Mayor didn't lay them firemen off because he wanted them, he hated them. Because he had to. And there's gonna be a lot more. So I hope the residents think about that. It's 0.5% of your earned income. 0.5% of your earned income raised in your income tax for the betterment of this city, to hold on to what we got in the report.
Thank you, Alex. Councilwoman Tony Jones, District 2.
I want to thank everybody for holding off and not leaving, and I really hate being last. I'm going to plead ignorant right now because I do recognize that there are some firefighters sitting in the corner in the back over there, and I apologize for not knowing names and faces, so I don't know if they may be the ones that were laid off or not. I don't know. But I just want to let you guys know that we applaud you and we thank you for your service. So, we can do this. I think right now, based on what happened, I think it's also a morale issue. I think nobody likes working not knowing if they're going to have a job the next day. And I think for us as residents, myself included, it's not a good feeling not knowing that if you're going to call 911, who's going to come or if. I think it even gets worse if there's other municipalities, they're in the same boat as we are because we do rely on mutual aid, and if they're busy and we need them, what's going to happen? So there's a lot of what ifs that are going on, and there's a lot of things that we need to take into consideration, but I do think that a lot of stuff we could maybe do from a grassroots effort. I did ask council because we are having a housing committee meeting. It's actually Housing and Economic Development Committee next Monday at City Hall in Room 7 at 6 o'clock. And one of the things that we're going to be discussing is how to actually help the building department. We have MBIS, the Municipal Building Systems company that's helping us with certified inspectors, I'm sorry. So they're doing permit inspections, but right now we also had to downsize in the building department. We have one guy that was out on the road that's now inside, helping the one girl that's still inside, watching the window. And building department is pretty much in operation, but shut down on Fridays to allow the inspector that's in there to actually answer complaints. So when anybody's going to be calling any one of us, and we're going to be calling the building department, I mean, how do we prioritize what's going to happen, who's going to answer what complaints? And it's going to be tough. I talked to the commissioner, and he's not opposed to this idea, but if there are people out there that are retired that can offer any type of an assistance, and I'm talking about filing, helping the girl maybe out at the window, whatever type of work that we could do. I mean, he's even to the point of, we were thinking, and this is a prelude to what's going on with the housing committee, is just driving our districts and helping the building department by just dropping off letters. Like, you know, you have that junk car, it's been sitting there for a while, you know, it really doesn't, you know, help the neighbors looking at it. It is a violation. Could you please just voluntarily maybe clean it up? Put your trash where it's supposed to be, just little things that really affect our quality of life. And even something like that, a little note in the door that we could help our neighbors just know that, you know, just because there may not be any eyes on the street, we're the eyes on the street. And we may be going into a deficit, and we are in a deficit, but we still live here, and we're still proud of where we live, and we still love our little house, and we love our street, and we want it to look good. We want it to continue to look good. We can't give up hope just because of a financial situation. I mean, that's for us and the mayor and our brand new finance director to take care of. And for us to follow their lead to see what we could do, what we need to cut, what we need to work with, but we really need to start acting as neighbors again, helping each other out, helping out the city if they can. So on Monday, we're going to have our own little meeting to figure out what we could do to help the building department, and I'm hoping that at the second council meeting, we could maybe spread some word out that if there are people there that are in the city that are looking to help volunteer, and it's not a commitment of daily, but, you know, if you could give a couple of hours here or there, and I'm sure almost any department would help, I think it would be much appreciated. I gave a list to Jackie, and I don't know if she shared it with Council Pro Tem, about working groups for council. And I think if council has a lot of idle time on their hands, there might be some productive suggestions in there for them to actually do some productive work in the city if it's raising money through a 5K race, so to speak, for our food pantry, or doing other activities in education and getting people involved in things, I think that would be pretty good for idle hands or minds. I also want to let you know that I did drive District 2 looking for vacant houses, and I'll make this really short. We have a total of 87 homes. Now, out of those 87 houses, which sounds a little scary, we have 9 that are tax delinquent. We have 21 that are bank owned. We have 13 that are vacant, but they're for sale. And we have 9 that are going through a foreclosure. The scary part is, and I didn't add up those figures because I just thought about it right now, is when you add up those figures and subtract it from the 87, those are what we have to watch. Those are the houses that, why are they empty? Who's responsible for them? Are they abandoned? I don't really think that the people, I wish I was one of them, didn't actually take the winter off and go down to Florida. So this is something that we have to look out for. I would also like to see if our housing committee could start and bring back the vacant housing registration so that could start generating some funds. And I did ask each council person to drive their district, especially now with the snow the way it is. It's very clear when you drive down your own street and you see the driveway aprons that have never been touched over the past 4 weeks of just the amount of snow that we've had. Gives us an idea of what's out there, and then to break down the vacancies into different categories. And I won't bore you because Jackie still needs to give her report, so thank you for listening to me. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you all for being so patient. We've had a lot of discussion this evening, but I do feel that that's the way we should be presenting some of these things, is with a little bit of discussion. Mayor, do you mind if I share that the comment about the syntax?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I thought it was quite interesting. The person who talked to the mayor started this conversation with the fact that they made a mistake and they reached out to one of the council persons in Maple Heights, and they made a big mistake because it wasn't supposed to be a contact. Guess who it was? I got an email on Saturday, and it suggested that I jump on the committee and support the syntax. And I sat down immediately and sent them quite an opinionated account of why I was not going to support the syntax, nor would I suggest that any of the residents here would be supporting it. And I bet if I had been supportive, it wouldn't have been a mistake contact, would it? So that goes. The other thing I want to share with you is that I have been asked several times to have some information, and I hear you coming up to the podium consistently asking for information. So we have put together a community forum, and then I'm going to send it out and ask you to do a little bit of recruiting as well with the council and also with our finance director, Irene Cole, and with our mayor. We will be doing a community forum on March 13th over at the Maple Heights Library. That's a Thursday from 6 o'clock to 8:30. And we'll be able to give you some facts, some figures, and you'll be able to ask questions that might relate to your situations. But this is where we can do a little bit of a dialogue. But we need your help, we need your assistance. Sometimes these things are successful and sometimes they're not. But if you want information, this is how we can present it to you and how you can share it with your friends, your neighbors, your relatives that live in Maple Heights. Again, you've heard a lot about the levy, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but these will be factual information with the financial status. And we hope that there's a flyer in the back if you'd like to take one. We'll have more, and I will certainly send some information. A clerk will send information to the newspapers, and hopefully we'll put it on the website so we get the word out. In the meantime, if you do have other questions, please don't be afraid to call and ask. And again, thank you so much. We appreciate the firemen joining us this evening, and also our rec department over there. And with that, I'm going to end my report because it's been a long evening, and there's no further business